Hi guys, we're at SIW Farm. It's early April. I'm Nat with the Keeper's Hive, my buddy George. And a few weeks ago, we showed you setting up these two queen hives. And now it's time to do our first Demaree. So we thought we'd let you guys come in, take a look, and watch how we do it.
Hey Nat, just checking in with you over there. How you doing?
Well, I'm going to open up and we're going to find out.
What do you think?
Let's take a
But
look.
before we get started, what do you think about these seeded hive inspections?
I think it's very addictive. I think I can get lazy in a hurry.
So let's get to work, Nat.
All right, let's see, George. Now, when I open up here, I got bees on every frame here, so I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Me too. I have bees on every frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off our observation window.
All right. We'll just set that aside.
And then we're going to take off our frame protectors.
Just like that.
And we're into the brood chambers, okay? So what we're going to do, what Nat and I are both going to do, is we're going to run all 8 of the frames in the brood chamber. So there's 8 frames in the brood chamber. Frame 1 should have food. Frame 8 should have food, which is nectar and pollen. And then in the 6 frames between the 2 frames of brood should be various stages of brood. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to leave 2 frames of brood in here and pull the rest up to the exchange box.
You want a little smoke?
Yeah, thanks, Nat. They seem to be relatively well behaved right now, but we'll just smoke the edges.
Yeah, these are nice bees.
And then we want to make sure that we find the queen and leave the queen in the brood chamber. So you ready to get to where? Oh, you're ahead of me, Nat.
So guys, what I'm going to do first is, and we've told you about this before, I like to give myself a little extra room when I pull frames. So the very first thing I pull is going to be our follower board. So let's just take this out and set it aside. And that gives me just a little bit of room to take and slide this first frame back. And I'm going to pull frame number 2 to begin with. That way I don't have to worry about rolling any queens. Now look at this.
What you got?
This is a frame of solid brood. This is beautiful.
Me too, Nat. I got cap brood on frame number 2 on my side. Now what we want to make sure of, Nat, is when we look at each frame that we look for queen cells and cut them out.
Yep, this frame has no queen cells. And you want to make sure your queen is not on one of these frames because you don't want to move her up.
And
so I'm not seeing a queen on this one. How about you, George?
I don't see a queen, but I see some queen cups because this is one of these frames that has wax foundation and they cut travel holes through the bottom. And that's a really common place where they put queen cells. So I'm just going to take my hive tool and sort of go along the bottom just to be sure that I don't miss any queen cells. Here's a queen cup right here. Probably doesn't need to be removed, but just to be on the safe side, I'll remove it. So yeah, so flip it over. And again, you can take a look here, Dave. Look, so this is a very typical, the start of a queen cell right here. So this sort of queen cell at the bottom with a little bit of frosting on it. We want to open it up just to see. Now it's blank. There's nothing in it, I don't believe. Or there may, oh yes, there was. There was the start of a small larvae. So it's definitely time to do the Demarees. But we want to remove it. See all these? That's why I like plastic foundation and not wax foundation, because they do less of the stuff at the bottom. But they're all removed. So back to you, Nat.
All right, so I took the one frame that was all cap brood and I set it aside for a couple of minutes in just a quiet box that I have over here. And now I'm into frame number 3. And I've got some brood in this, but it's not cap brood. So I'm going to probably let this one stay right where it was. But for right now, I'm just going to take and set it in the quiet box so I can keep going.
So Nat, I've run all 8 of my frames so far. And it looks like I've got 3 frames of cap brood and 2 open frames so far. Frame number 1 and frame number 8 both had food on them, so I'm going to leave that be. Unfortunately, I have not found my queen yet. So now I'm seeing eggs and young larvae in this hive, Nat. So I know the queen's here somewhere, but I can't find her. And they don't have any queen cells, so I know the queen's in there. So with eggs and larvae, I know the queen's in there. I just can't find her.
Oh, that makes two of us because I'm down to my last frame here, and I still haven't found mine.
So there is an option that if we don't find the queens. So the option, if you can't find your queen and know that you're queen right,
I'm definitely queen right because
it's
I got
just
a
to
fresh
take
brood.
these bees and sort of shake them into the brood chamber and just move the frames of brood up. The nurse bees will follow the brood up. I mean, it's always nice to see the queen and make sure the queen's in the bottom, but sometimes she's walking around the side of the box. So this is what I'm going to do, Dave. I'm going to just gently shake the bees off this frame. Make sure I don't have any.
Did you already pull me 3 frames?
I did. I put them in front of your hive there, Nat.
Okay, all right.
So there's one cap brood frame. So again, I'm leaving a food frame, 2 blank frames, 2 brood frames, and then 2 blank frames. In my brood chamber. So what do you have, 2 frames of brood left?
Yes.
Okay. So I really like to leave 2 frames of brood in the brood chamber with the Demaree. And you leave them right in the center in positions 4 and 5. So again, frame 1 is food, 2 and 3 are foundation or drawn comb, 4 and 5 is the brood that you left down there, 6 and 7 are empty frames or foundation, and 8 is food. So that's the way you want to sort of structure your brood chamber after you do the Demaree. So usually you can pull 3 or 4, depending on how much brood frames you have, out of the brood chamber up into the exchange box. The other thing we want to do, make sure we do, is now that we have all the brood up in here, we need to give these an entrance for the emerging drones to come out. So what we'll do is we'll take this exchange box and we'll set it back about 1/4 of an inch off the spacer box, and this will give the bees a way to get in and out. It'll also give the foragers a way to come in and start to store honey above. Yeah, today neither Nat or I found the queen on either one of our sides. We did see evidence that the queen was there. We saw eggs and larvae, which is really what's most important. We did, in order to make sure we didn't move the queen up, we took the brood frames and shook all the bees off of them into the brood chamber before we moved the frames up to make sure that that queen was not moved up above the queen excluder. It's not hurting the bees, and actually it could be a good thing to do, because sometimes queen cells will hide in the bottom or the sides of the frames, and when you take all those bees off the frame, you're able to see any queen cells they have trapped in different areas.
Yeah, George, you're right, because I just did find a cell that I missed before, but when I shook those bees, there it was. So yeah, that's a good idea.
So what we'll do next week, Dave, is we'll come back and we'll make sure that one, that we're still queen right on both sides. I'm sure we will be, but not seeing the queen, we'll want to make sure that both sides have an actively laying queen. We will check the frames that we moved up here to make sure there's no emergency queen cells on there, because these frames are further away from the queen pheromone, and they may start to build queen cells. And we'll start supering this thing up. We'll probably put 1 super to start, but we'll probably have 3 or 4 supers on this by the time the peak honey flow starts in about 3 to 4 weeks around here.